In this clip, we are going to finish configuring the render settings and then we will kick off the render. In the last clip, we set the Arnold quality. We found the right balance between quality and render time. Now let's finish this. If you want to follow along, please open the file m4_06.mb in the scenes directory. Now let's go again to the render settings. And that time I will go under the Command tab. And I will start by specifying a name for the render file. So because I'm going to render 3 shots, it will be better to find a name which will automatically update according to the camera name. And for that I can use variables. If I do a right click on that field here, I can access a bunch of variables. I will choose the camera, then my files will be named automatically after my camera names. Perfect! Now I already know that I will have several passes. So let's add an underscore and then do a right click again and select render pass. Perfect! As you're modifying all this, you can see the file name being modified up there. Right now, the perspective camera is selected for rendering, so this is why the camera variable is replaced by persp. Also, if you look for where your images are going to be saved, this is here. If you set the project in the first module, it should go directly in the images folder. Now, just to be tidy, let's add a folder in front of each render with the name of the camera. Now, I will use the EXR format with the zip compression. If you plan of using these images in Nuke, you could choose zip S, which is a bit more efficient to read in Nuke. But if you have any doubts, keep the default value. Here, however, I will choose half precision. This will write a 16-bit file instead of a 32-bit. 16-bit are way enough info to work with. It's even good enough for depth pass, and the files are way lighter and easier to work with. So definitely check that guy, except if you are rendering some really technical passes like deep passes or point pass. Now here, I will need to specify that we are rendering a frame sequence and not a single frame. I will choose name.framenumber.extension, and as you can see, the file name is updating up there. You can reduce the frame padding to 3 if you'd like, because we won't go over 150 frames, so we don't need another 0. Let's specify the frame range here. So 1 to 150. And now here are the renderable cameras. So let's choose first the camera 1. And the tricky part here is that if you want to add another camera, you need to open that list again and go at the bottom and click on Add Renderable Camera. And there we go, a second slot for your camera is now here. Camera 2 should be in there, otherwise go and select it. Let's do that one more time, and now we have camera 3. This setting will allow us to render all our cameras at the same time. Honestly, for this shot, it would have been better to render them separately to specify the frame ranges we really need according to the editing we did earlier. But because I'm going to render all these frames overnight, it's more convenient to do that way for me. And it may be more convenient for you as well. However, I'll show you a little bit later how to render only one camera at a time. Now, under image size, you are free to use the size you want. Here I'm going to upgrade for HD 720. And this is it for the Common tab. Last but not least, the AOVs. Here you can add as many render passes as you want. And depending on the Arnold shader you are using, you can choose specific ones under the name here. For this course, the only pass I'd like to output is the depth pass, and the beauty as well, but the beauty is here by default. To add the depth pass, go to Built-in, select Z, and click on the arrow here. The Z is going in the Activate AOVs column, and it will be now part of your render. You can see it as well here. I think we are ready to go, guys. Of course, always double check these settings before kicking off the render and go to bed, otherwise if you miss something, the result on the morning feels like a bad hangover. So we have here the Z pass. Good. My file path is good, file format and compression as well, the frame range is right, the three cameras are here, and the image size is correct. Now a quick check as well to the Arnold Render tab. We have a sample of 6 here and the diffuse of 2 for the ray depth. Great! Oh, as well, quite often you want to render with motion blur, and this is an easy one to forget. In my case, I don't want to render motion blur for this shot, for some rendering time reason, and let's pretend some artistic reason as well. But if you do want motion blur, you need to come over here and enable it. Motion blur requires more AA sample to look nice, and as well to tweak a bit these settings. But if you want to know more about it, look for some course on Arnold at Pearl site, there is really great ones. Alright, I'm good to go. I can close that window, and this is the epic time. Make sure the rendering menu is selected here and go to the render menu, then render sequence, but click on the option box. The only thing you want to check here is the render all cameras. Otherwise, it will ignore the cameras you set earlier in the render settings and render only the current camera. Okay, now you can click on render sequence and go to bed. If you forgot something or if you want to cancel the render, select the render window who popped up and try to hit escape. That should work at some point. Actually, I just realized that I forgot to hide the two mirror plane here, and we can see them in the render. So good, I see that right now. So I'm just coming to my outliner and do Ctrl H to hide them. And now I can go back to render sequence, make sure the render all cameras is still checked in, and click again in render sequence. I'll see you in the next clip now and to have a look to the final render and eventually fix render issues. See you there.